What would you do if your neighbor cut off your water supply in the middle of a scorching drought, just to prove a point? That's exactly what happened to me last July, when my hose sputtered out mid-morning, leaving my garden gasping under a 100-degree sun. I live on a quiet patch of land, handed down from my grandpa, just outside the Snooty Meadow VYEW Estates HOA. My little paradise thrives on a spring-fed creek that starts right on my property, trickling past my cabin, through my orchard, and until recently into the manicured lawns of the HOA folks downstream. For 6 years, I've tended my chickens, grown heirloom peppers, and kept to myself, happy as a clam. But all that changed when Lisa, the new HOA president, decided my creek was her business. Lisa, a former car salesperson with a perm as tight as her grip on power, moved in 2 houses down the ridge and turned my peaceful life upside down. Her face always looked like she'd just bitten a sour grape, and she had a knack for sticking her nose where it didn't belong, snapping photos over my fence, reporting fake code violations, even climbing a stepstool to snoop on my mulch pile. But cutting my irrigation line? That was a whole new level of crazy. I followed the hose to where the ground turned soft, freshly dug, and there it was, my pipe, sliced clean in 2, tied with a neon yellow tag that read, "Violation corrected per directive." My blood boiled. Who gave the order? I traced the disturbed dirt to the edge of my land, right where it meets Meadow VYEW, and there stood Lisa, arms crossed, sunglasses perched low, sweating through her linen blazer like she was auditioning for neighborhood tyrant. I demanded answers. She didn't blink. "You're overwatering during a drought," she said, cool as ice. "As HOA president, I'm protecting our community." I reminded her my land isn't part of her precious HOA. She smirked. "Water doesn't care about property lines. You're setting a bad example." Then she turned and strutted off, leaving me with a broken pipe and a fire in my chest. That's when it hit me. Lisa had no clue what she'd done. That pipe she cut? It was fed by Saw Creek, the same creek that wound through my yard, past my chicken coop, under my old wooden bridge, and only saw into Meadow VYEW, where it kept their fake turf green, their azaleas perky, and their silly putting green pristine. They had no well, no backup tanks, just sprinklers hooked to a water source they didn't own. I crouched by the busted pipe, a grin creeping across my face. For the first time in this HOA nightmare, I held the cards. If they wanted a water war, I'd be the general. By nightfall, I'd patched the pipe with some PVC and duct tape, enough to keep my garden alive. But the real plan was brewing. I dug up my grandpa's property records, sealed in a plastic bag in my desk. Those pages were gold. They proved my property line stretched 10 feet farther than the HOA thought, and I had deed rights to the spring and its flow, signed by the county in 1947, updated in 2001 after Dad passed. This wasn't some vague lefolite, was ironclad proof that the creek was mine to control. I marked my boundary with red spray paint on 4 cedar posts, and stuck flags in the dirt. Next to the pipe, I taped a note to a jar. "Water flows where it's wanted. Game on." The next morning, I strolled downstream. Meadow VYU's lawns, once so perfect they could have starred in a golf magazine, were already wilting. Sprinkler heads clicked uselessly. Hoses lay limp. A cluster of HOA board members stood in Lisa's driveway, fanning themselves, arguing. Lisa glanced up, saw me, and I waved, nice and slow. That afternoon, a guy in a county uniform showed up, claiming he was checking unauthorized changes to shared infrastructure. I asked for a warrant. He didn't have one. I sent him packing. This wasn't just about winning, it was about making them rethink ever touching my land again. That night, under a lantern's glow, I studied the creek. The water shimmered, whispering possibilities. With a few tweaks, I could nudge its flow away from Meadow VYEW entirely, into a deeper bend behind my orchard. It wouldn't be illegal, just a gentle redirect, legal as long as downstream rights weren't violat. But they had no rights, only arrogance. At dawn, knee-deep in the creek, I got to work. The water was cold around my boots as I eyed a natural split in the bedrock, a spot I used to skip stones as a kid. A few flat rocks, some logs, nothing flashy, just enough to tip the flow left, away from the HOA's culvert. By noon, the creek was shifting, curling toward my woods instead of their lawns. It was subtle, like nature had changed its mind. Meadow VYEW started to crack. Their newsletter babbled about responsible water use, but their identity was built on those lush lawns, now turning to straw. I overheard a woman at the diner moaning about her dying petunias and a koi pond that looked like a mud pit. Lisa stayed quiet, but I knew she was scheming. I kept my defenses tight, daily checks on my markers, a trail cam hidden in a birdhouse, and a sign at the creek's fork. Private spring. No HOA access. Then I caught a guy in khakis snooping near my fence, pretending to sketch wildflowers. He claimed he was studying flow patterns for a community group. No card, no agency, just a quick exit when I asked questions. I got his license plate on VY Deo. The HOA's panic grew. Whispers in town said board members were turning on Lisa. One quit, another stopped paying dues. Then, one morning, I found footprints in the mud near my rocks, fresh from the night. Someone had tried to shift the flow back. That was it. I rigged motion sprinklers to my barn's tank, filled with water, garlic oil, and skunk scent safe but VYLA. At 2 a.m., they went off. The footage was comedy gold. Lisa's right-hand man, a guy who always wore loafers, got drenched, slipped in the mud, and ran off screaming. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. I saved the VY Deo, just in case. Lisa tried a town hall, ranting about environmental vandalism. But residents grilled her. One asked if she had permission to dig on my land. She dodged, red-faced. I watched from my porch, lemonade in hand, my documents ready if needed. The pressure was breaking them. Meadow VYU's greenbelt was a dust bowl, their bridge dry as a bone. Then Lisa upped the ante. I caught a contractor in my creek, elbow deep, trying to force the water back to their culvert. I filmed him, calm but firm. "Who hired you? Got a permit?" He stammered, then bolted. I posted the VY Deo online with a caption. "Just protecting my peppers." It exploded. Locals chimed in, calling Lisa out. 2 sheriff's cruisers showed up at Meadow VYU's clubhouse soon after. Deputy Hayes, a grizzled guy with boots older than me, asked for my footage. I handed over everything, VY Deo's, maps, deeds. He said Lisa wasn't chargeable yet, but one more move and she'd face fines. I didn't stop. I added more cams, hung old CDs to flashlight at night, and upgraded my sprinklers with fish emulsion and peppermint oil. Smelled like death warmed over. When they hit Lisa's loafer guy again, word spread fast. Folks at the general store bought me coffee to hear the tale. Lisa filed a county complaint, claiming I was hoarding resources. I sent the county a packet, surveys, water rights, VY Deos. The clerk laughed as she filed it. Lisa's emergency board meeting flopped. Only 3 showed, 1 resigned, another leaked my VY Deo. I called a surveyor from out of county, who mapped the creek's origin on my land with drones and satellites. I laminated the report and posted it by the creek with a sign. "No water access. Violators recorded, reported, sprayed." Lisa finally cracked, marching to my fence one Sunday, asking for a CIVYL discussion. I told her CIVY Lighty died when she cut my pipe. She hinted at a water-sharing deal. I said we'd talk when trust was rebuilt. Her hair was frizzing, her steps shaky. She was losing her edge. The county's ruling came soon after, a gold-sealed letter confirming my exclusive rights to the creek. I posted copies everywhere, my gate, barn, porch, the sheriff, and Meadow VYU's bulletin board with a note. For clarity. Their group chat blew up. A second letter from the water district exposed their sprinklers and ponds as freeloaders on my creek. Lisa's lawsuit fund vote failed. Only 7 attended, 4 voted no. One emailed me anonymously. "Thanks for standing up. Sorry it came to this." Meadow VYU's lawns died, their paths choked with dust. A consultant told them to ditch grass for drought-resistant plants, calling their old setup negligent. Lisa spun it as eco-friendly, but no one cared. My land? Thriving. Tomatoes burst, squash bloomed, deer drank from my creek. A news crew filmed a segment on water rights, showing my signs, my new drip system, and Meadow VYU's dead grass. It aired, calm but brutal, and online comments roasted Lisa. She was voted out as president. The new leader, Mr. Thompson, a retired principal, sent a handwritten apology and a promise of respect. I sent him the county ruling, laminated. I finished rerouting the creek, digging a channel to a marsh on my land. It fed my orchard, not their sprinklers. Lisa sent a letter, raw and shaky, apologizing for misjudging boundaries and admitting fear drove her. She was moving away. I didn't reply, just filed it away. A magazine ran a feature on my fight, not as drama but as stewardship. Thompson's HOA asked for a creekside tour to learn conservation. I said yes, but Lisa couldn't come. The group was quiet, respectful, listening as I explained the land's balance. One man said, "We thought we owned this place. Now we know we're just borrowing it." I nodded. "The land keeps score." That fall, my creek sparkled under golden leaves, birds nesting, squirrels darting. My dog, Scout, slow but loyal, dipped a paw in the water. I sat on a bench I'd carved. Let it flow its way, and breathed in wet earth and apples. Meadow VYEW swapped lawns for sagebrush and stone paths, funded by their failed legal budget. Irony at its finest. By the fire pit one night, with Scout snoring and coyotes howling, I realized I wasn't just guarding water. I was part of it, tied to the land's quiet strength. The fight was over, the lesson learned, and the creek flowed free, exactly where it belonged.